Steps into it. Pass is caught. Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Vikings win it!
Strap yourself in and get ready.
Here we go!
The leaders in fantasy football are incoming, giving you the ultimate insight to help you win your leagues and dominate your mates. You're now listening to the Insight NFL Show with your hosts, Guns and Maverick.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go!
Alrighty, welcome back to another week, possibly the first Monday podcast we've done, or I've been on for a month, and with you, maybe for 5-6 weeks, I don't know. But we're back, we're here. Welcome to the Insight NFL Show. As always, you know the drill, you know who's on. Matt, how are you?
Yeah, very well, mate. It's been a bit of a huge week in the NFL today. We got some big scores around the league. There was a lot of scoring, a lot of passing touchdown, rushing touchdowns, just scoring in general. If you had a bad week scoring wise, then your team's probably not up to it.
No, and speaking of not up to it, your connection might not be the greatest. We've sort of lost your visual there. So if you want to, do what you did before, I'll keep speaking. It was a interesting, I suppose, morning of football. I mean, obviously you had that Jayden Daniels throw to finish that game off in proper style. I had assumed that the Bears had won because I couldn't watch it at the time, but then you get all these notifications popping up on your phone, and it's like, well, Jayden Daniels has pulled off the incredible. I saw a stat today that the O-line blocked for Daniels for 12 and a half seconds, which is the longest in the NFL Next Gen Stats era, which I think it's well over 20, 25 years. So that's phenomenal. I think obviously we saw the return of some former number one overall pick Bryce Young. Had a good first half, terrible second half. It's Denver's defense. It's a very good defense. I don't know how much you want to read into it. He was okay for most of the game, and then when they were chasing points, he kind of faded away. Oh, here we go. You're back.
Yeah, sorted out.
No, it's good. Oh, you can talk now. I've got a sneeze.
Yeah, all around, mate. I thought, it was just a ripping day. Red Zone was elite, especially the second half of the games were elite. The ending in 4 of those games was unreal. Just when you thought the game was over, it was back on. Especially that Patriots Jets game had some wild moments as well. The Colts and Texans were came down to the wire. Just some bad play all around, really. But in the end, they worked it out. And I thought it was ripping games, mate, all around. I've in my fantasy week so far, I've probably split half my games, won and lost. But in our league of insight, mate, I cannot buy a win in that league. I know I'm second and had a few wins, but when you're top scoring in the league, max points for in the league, and points against is also the highest. The same thing's going to happen again this week. I'm going to score big and lose.
Well, how am I going? Some teams just do it better. I mean, look, I've beat, notorious commenter Ben in the comments here, in our comments. I've beat him in the League of Insight here, and that was with a Jordan Mason injury. So Darnell Mooney, Joe Mixon, and the GOAT, Jameis Winston. Oh, Jameis. Wow.
Yeah, I did see a bet floating around that they were taking the line at 8.5, and bloody hell, they take the 8.5. They bloody won the game.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that was a heck of a performance from Jameis. We'll go into it more a bit further. You know what? Let's get straight into the game, shall we? let's not waste any time here. Rams, Vikings. Friday midday football. I think we could call it Friday lunchtime. That's got a good ring to it. So Matthew Stafford, 4 passing touchdowns. He had 3 on the season beforehand. That doesn't feel
Yeah.
quite right, but it was very few. Maybe it was 3 in the last month. I think that was it. But yeah, 4 passing touchdowns for him. He threw 1 to Cooper Cup, 2 to Demarcus Robinson, and 1 to Kyron Williams. Puka Nakua went 7 of 9 for 106 yards, as well as a couple of rushes for 5 yards. And Kyron Williams, the touchdown machine, he keeps on going, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He does. And I thought it was a really bad matchup coming into the game, and he said, go fuck yourself. I'm him. And he was really him. Also on the Viking on the Ram side of things, it was weird because Puka Nakua was the one that was questionable coming into the game, and Cooper Cup was the one that was fully healthy, named 3 days earlier. But it felt like it was in reverse. It felt like Puka Nakua was the one that was healthy, ready to go, and Cooper Cup was the one that was questionable coming into the game. It was a really weird feeling on that one. But, on 50% snaps or just over, Puka Nakua just went berserk, didn't he? Over 100 receiving yards. And he looks like he's ready to go for every single starting lineup for next week onwards. He's going to be juicy for the second half of the year in your fantasy lineups.
Because what's another thing that's worth noting here is that he only played 57% of the snaps.
Yeah.
So he was still on a snap count and pumped out that score. So his target share will continue to increase. But the only thing in Puka Nakua's way is that there is still a Cooper Cup. Now, he still had 5 catches, 50 yards, and a touchdown. He also was on a snap count of 58%. So those 2 guys, they're going to be in the high 90s when they're at full pelt. I'm not sure what to make I'm not sure what to make of it going forward. I think it'll be week to week upside for each of those guys, but they've probably got similar floors and similar ceilings in this offense, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd probably more lean to Puka Nakua, to be honest, as being the number one younger version of Cooper Cup, really, to be honest. Very smooth routes. Look, they're only a game or 2 out of the playoffs, the Rams as well, and they haven't really been fully healthy since week 1. So I don't believe that they'll trade anyone just yet until they probably lose a couple more in the next few weeks. Because, look, fully healthy, they can make the playoffs and make some noise for sure. Like Stafford absolutely tore them apart. So that's going to be one to watch moving forward for them. But also on the Vikings end, I was pretty disappointed with the usage of Justin Jefferson to a degree. He was peppered early in that first half. He had over 100 receiving yards in the first half, and then saw nothing in the second half at all, and they ended up losing the game. So that was weird usage of him. He wasn't really getting double teamed or anything like that. Just sort of just went away from him. But as a Justin Jefferson owner, he could have been on track for a big 40 burger for sure if they just kept peppering him.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at his stats. He had 8 catches on 9 targets for 115 receiving yards. He had Aaron Jones was the next highest in receiving yards at 37. So it does show you that, maybe their play calling and not throwing to Justin Jefferson, it might have cost them the game. I mean, obviously we know that the refs did stuff them over late in the game. They're denying them an opportunity, but were they really going 100 yards
No.
downfield? Probably not. So I'm not really worried about that. Interesting. Sorry, I keep getting distracted, but we've got a question here. Quick question, guys. Would you trade Brian Robinson for Brock Bowers, a 10-man double flex? That's obviously not a super flex. Double flex league. He has Evan Ingram, but I would probably move him immediately. Now, what I'd like to know is, do you have Brian Robinson, or does he have Brock Bowers?
I dare say he's got Brian Robinson.
Well, I'm not trading for Brock Bowers, even though I have Evan Ingram. Like Ingram's with Christian Kirk gone for the season, which we'll get to at some point soon. He has Brian Robinson. No, I wouldn't do that trade. I also don't think he'll agree, to be honest.
Yeah, Evan Ingram's fine,
Yeah,
and Brian Robinson is the other number one. So yeah, I'd hold.
yeah, I don't think you do that trade. Now back to the game here. Darnold was okay. I mean, 18 of 25 for 240 and two. No turnover, no picks at least. It's not bad. I don't know. Like they went away from Jefferson,
Yeah.
and that really cost them, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It did. Jordan Addison, I don't know what they're doing with Jordan Addison. He's just pretty much been like forgotten in the offense.
Hmm.
TJ Hawkinson looks like he'll be back for next week. He's now training. I dare say he'll be back next week. It sounds like he is. And he'll be a focal point of this offense moving forward as well. Aaron Jones was okay, 3 yards of carry, no score. So that was okay. Not what you really want, but whatever. But yeah, all in all, mate, it was a fun game to watch. Stafford looked really good, and the boys at the Rams, all your premium players there were popping off. So for a fantasy perspective, even Justice and Jefferson included, it was it was a pretty good day.
Yeah, I mean, good game to watch. Three stud wide receivers scoring a bucket load of points. How could you not love that? Now, the Eagles and the Bengals. I think that's the next on your list here. I'm not sure how it's working for you, but 37-17, a bit of a blowout this game, which is surprising considering what we were looking at when we previewed it on Thursday. Jalen Hurts, 16 of 20 for 236 yards, passing touchdown, but three rushing touchdowns. Three rushing touchdowns that could have gone to Saquon Barkley. Now,
Yeah,
this was the problem with him in the preseason, was that like the tush push isn't going to be fully dead. It's going to take rushing touchdowns away. Now, in saying that, he still had 5 rushing touchdowns in 7 games, so he's doing okay. And 6 total for the year, so he's not doing too bad. It's just it's hard for him to finish as the RB1 when you're not scoring Derrick Henry level touchdowns or having 10 catches a game like Kamara is, for example.
yeah, that's right. And look, he still had 22 carries for 108 yards, Saquon. So what's that? 5 yards per carry, which is fine. Obviously, you want a couple of scores to go on that to go berserk. But now, all in all, mate, Jalen Hurts, should I say, looked like he was back in his element of Jalen Hurts that we know with those rushing touchdowns. Yeah, there was one there that was a tush push, but there was a couple of them there that he sort of ran in himself from like 10 yards in. So, look, this offense will get better and better when it gets more healthier. Devonta Smith obviously came back last week, was pretty quiet, and then this week he's popped off. That passing touch, the receiving touchdown that he got was unbelievable, to be honest. It was a really, really nice throw. And AJ Brown, again, was still pretty productive as well, 5 for 84. So they're probably going to got it back next week, if not the week after. And this offense will be ready to go to make a real playoff push. And maybe even could they go all the way? I don't know. We'll soon find out. But on a fantasy perspective, they all did their job today, mate, I reckon.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you were a got it own and you had no choice but to plug in the backup Grant Calcaterra, you wouldn't be too disappointed. I mean, 3 catches for 58 yards. It's not terrible. I know people have done that and they did okay out of it. So, a small note, but something I thought I'd mention. On the flip side of things, I don't understand how you can throw the ball to Jamar Chase 11 times. He catches it 9 times and he only goes for 54 receiving yards. Something's wrong there if that's happening.
Yeah, I did see that he was getting double teamed a lot too all game. That T Higgins was laid out, which came out of nowhere, to be honest. I didn't expect him to be carrying an injury, but he did. And I reckon when T Higgins misses, it really does affect Jamar Chase because, as I said, he gets doubled a lot and everything like that. So when T Higgins is out there, it allows them to at least stretch the field out a bit more. Look, I mean, that touchdown, I don't know if you saw that touchdown that Chase ended up getting, but it was so much time in the pocket. Well, actually, he moved out of the pocket, should I say. And then he was sort of directing Chase where to go. It was pretty damn good to watch. But, look, Jamar Chase was still a focal point in the offense, obviously. But I will say the running game today was where it really sort of fell apart. Chase Brown, 12 carries for 32 yards and a touchdown. So his day got saved there by that rushing touchdown. And Zach Moss, 5 carries for 11 yards. So when you're getting 43 rushing yards out of 15 attempts, as a whole, it's not great from your two running backs.
No, like it's not what is it? 40. So what? Yeah, 43 on 17. Like it's nothing.
17, sorry. Yeah.
No, yeah, it's nothing, and it was a bit similar in the air as well. Like they weren't even going at 10 yards of completion. Like it's not great stuff for him for Joe Burrow, but he did all right. This offense just didn't click without T Higgins there. Now, then the next game, I suppose, just keep moving along. The next game. Now, this was a heck of a finish, wasn't it? Browns, Ravens,
Yes.
29-24. Jameis Winston with ice in his veins. He's not the player of the week, but boy, he was good. He was
Yeah,
really good.
he was really good. And it was funny because on the flip side, Lamar was having a really bad, well, not a bad day, but he was struggling. He found it quite hard. He was getting frustrated, and Jameis was sitting there firing bombs left, right, and center. Albeit Jameis was a bit lucky that he didn't get picked off twice. These cornerbacks in the league, seriously, they have the worst hands sometimes. Like it hits them right in the spank middle of the hand, and they just drop the ball. It's so frustrating. But anyway, but yeah, mate, I'm interested to see what Jameis Winston can do out of this team or with this team for the remainder of the season. Now they beat a Super Bowl contender, so they moved to 2-6. Look, they're probably the season's not quite done, but if they lose one or two more games, it probably is. So, if Jameis can get a win streak going with this squad, then I'll be heavily, heavily impressed. And you know what, he'll probably be the starter for them moving forward if that's the case. But all in all, mate, it was awesome to watch. Cedric Tillman went berserk, didn't he?
He went berserk. 7 catches on 9 targets, 99 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, obviously, he did have that 60-yard receiving touchdown to finish the game. But 28.9 fantasy points. I mean, we may as well talk. We may as well touch on it now because we're not going to do another one before waivers hit. How much of your fab are you putting on Cedric Tillman if he wasn't picked up last week?
I mean, he dumped quite a lot. If he's on your waivers, he'd probably dump 30% at least.
Yeah.
If not more. But look, to be honest with you, mate, I don't think he'd be available in many leagues at the moment. I think if you didn't get him on the waivers and he was still sitting there, someone would have picked him up over the weekend or something like that. So, good luck to you if he's available because he's going to go for a shitload of fab. But, mate, I also want to mention that Nick Chubb was pretty much 16 carries for 52 yards. So he's going to take a while to really get going. But the workload's there.
Know that. The workload's there, and we did know this could well have happened. You're really looking at him from the perspective of winning you a fantasy championship if you're a contending team, not getting you to the playoffs. He's a cherry on top, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you really shouldn't be starting him at this point. But hey, come week 14, 15, 16, 17, when your playoffs may start, he could be cherry ripe.
Yeah, he will be. Yeah. Speaking of, on the topic of running backs, Derrick Henry kept the touchdown streak going. 11 carries, 73 yards, and a rushing touchdown, of course.
Yep.
I think we've talked about it. It's him or Kamara for RB1, and I think Derrick Henry's leading the race right now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yep. I'm going to look at the points in the meantime, but tell me, what did you think of the Ravens offense, and especially, there you go, I could speak, especially how bad Zay Flowers' hands are?
Yeah, look, sort of. Zay Flowers on a regular basis, I think he's a bit too inconsistent, right? So last week he was carrying that ankle injury, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Well, he had 1 catch for 19 yards, then comes out and has 7 for 115. You know what? Next week we'll probably have 3 for 25 or something like that. Like, you just don't know when he's going to pop off and when he's not. So I want to see a bit more consistency in his game. But that's also because the Ravens get on a bit of a hot streak early in games usually, and then they just run for the rest of the game too. So, double-edged sword. Mark Andrews looked like he's now heavily involved in the offense. And Rashad Bateman gets the long balls, I suppose. I only had one today, but they do target him deep when he's there. So I want to see Zay Flowers more involved, man. I know he had a good game today, but all in all, I just want to see more of him.
He dropped an absolute sitter from Lamar Jackson when he was scrambling. It's like a 30-yard completion downfield. He was doing everything he could, Lamar. Zay Flowers, there's no one near him. And he just drops it cold. And he's like, oh, the sun. Just like, hey, you're being paid millions of dollars to catch a football. And there's no competition
Yeah.
for it. Just catch it. Like, you know.
Had a pretty good day.
National Tight Ends Day saw the return or the continued form of Mark Andrews, 5 catches, 36 yards, and a receiving touchdown. I think he's back as the tight end 1A at the very least. I think Isaiah Likely's still there or thereabouts. He's not going to go away because he's good enough to. He's earned that spot as a post starter, I suppose. But Mark Andrews is still Lamar's guy, and it showed today.
Yeah, spot on. And look, Isaiah Likely's 4 for 47, still okay.
Yeah.
But Mark Andrews 5 for 36 on the scores where he wins out. So no, I agree, mate, with the 1A, 1B scenario there. But it's crazy because Mark Andrews would have been droppable at one stage, which I believe he did hit waivers in a few leagues as well that I saw. Or if he wasn't on waivers, he would have firmly been on the bench. So now he's probably firmly in the starting lineups. So just it shows that you just need to be a bit patient with some guys, and he's a classic example, I suppose.
And I know we've talked a bit about the Browns, but I'd like to mention that Elijah Moore saw 12 targets today, 8 catches, 95 yards. He's a guy that could be available in a few leagues. I don't think he'd be too highly rostered, but I think he should be now because although Cedric Tillman topped the team in receiving yards, like Elijah Moore wasn't that far off, and he had the most targets. I don't mind the play of. I think you need to roster Elijah Moore if possible. But then my question to you is, much like Cedric Tillman, how much fab are you putting on?
It's hard to say. Look, I wouldn't be putting in much, to be quite honest with you, because they've got guys like Njoku, Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore, Cedric Tillman. Like there's, I don't know, they're all there, and it's going to be a pass-heavy offense. I will say that, but I don't know. Elijah Moore's been a bit underwhelming over the course of his career, in my opinion. So, look, if you're desperate, I'd probably put on 5% in deeper leagues. But if you're in shallower leagues, I probably wouldn't touch him. Look,
Interesting.
I don't know. It all depends on your league structure, I suppose. But yeah, as I said, there's 4 solid options there, and you just don't know who it's going to go to on a weekly basis.
I'm probably a bit more positive. I'd be going 10 to 15. Just like, as you said, James is going to pass. Someone's going to have to catch these bombs. And I feel like Elijah Moore's. I mean, he's already targeted him 12 times today. He had a fair few targets last week, if my memory serves me correctly. Yeah, 6 last week, 12 today. He's been getting consistent targets even with Deshaun, so I don't mind the play. But look, let's look at the next game. Titans Lions. Now, this was a blowout, but in a weird way, not really a dominant fantasy game for anyone except Jameer Gibbs.
Absolutely, mate. It's one of those games where if you started Jared Goff and you didn't watch the game and you saw them score 52 points, you think, oh, fuck, Jared Goff must have gone off for 5 passing touchdowns or something like that. Well, he had 3 on 85 yards. So that's a weird stat line from mine. But yeah, Jameer Gibbs, mate, he's looking really, really good. On 11 carries, he has 127 rushing yards, albeit that he did break away for a 60-yarder, I think it was. But I'll tell you what, once he finds that hole, he's as good as gone. There's no one stopping him. He's lightning quick.
Now, on the topic of Jameer Gibbs being, an elite running back the last few weeks, and to be honest, for just about all of the season, I I'm going to read you out the top 10 running backs in PPR leagues right now. So number one is Derrick Henry still in a PPR league. He's at 175.2 points so far. You've got Alvin Kamara at number two at 163.2. Saquon Barkley at number three with 144.2. Kyron Williams at four with 139.3. Bijan Robinson at five with 138.4. Now Jameer Gibbs comes in at six with 135.5. Brees Hall at seven, 129.4. James Cook at eight with 121.7. Kenneth Walker at nine with 119.8, and he missed two games. And Josh Jacobs at 10 with 117.2. Now, what stands out to me there is that, Jameer Gibbs has had a bye in that as well, first of all. And second of all, he's had to share the backfield with a stud running back himself in David Montgomery. Now, I understand Montgomery is not to the in a tier that Jameer Gibbs is, but like Montgomery is very good at what he does.
Yeah, I've got Jameer Gibbs in, I think, 2 dynasty leagues, and I was really upset when I saw David Montgomery sign a new contract with him, or an extension, should I say? Because I was hoping that Gibbs would be the man moving forward, and he'd be seeing 15 carries a game minimum, and just going off. But they seem like they work in tandem really, really well. They've got a nickname for each other as well, so they obviously don't really want to compete against each other. So the respect's there, and mate, they fucking dominate the game. They make it their own. They wear down defenses, and just both go off. Like, yeah, it's pretty damn impressive. So you can pretty much start both running backs. It's probably one of the only few duos where you can both start and play, and you can pretty much guarantee a good score from them for a daily or on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you'd agree with me. It's the best running back pairing in the league.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah. On the flip side, Tony Pollard had to do it all himself today. 20 carries, 94 yards. Now, I'm aware that Mason Rudolph and Calvin Ridley had a first quarter from, I don't know, from the Hall of Fame sort of thing. Like, he was at 120. I think it was 8 catches for 126 receiving yards and a touch, and maybe a touchdown for Calvin Ridley. No touchdown. Sorry, 8 catches for 126 receiving yards in the first quarter for Calvin Ridley, but then he had 2 catches for 17 yards the other 3 quarters. So, look, once the Detroit Lions started to shut down Calvin Ridley, the Tennessee Titans went to crap, and so did Mason Rudolph. So, what am I taking from this game? I'm taking that Will Levis will probably remain the starter.
Yeah, probably. Look, probably. You probably got to go with the youth and to see how he goes for the remainder of the year. But look, yeah, as you said, Mason Rudolph at times did look like an absolute beast, and then had some really, really bad turnovers that cost them badly. Especially in their own side of the field. But when you turn the ball over on the 20-yard line and on your end, then it's not really that great. Gives your defense no chance to really do anything with that at all. So, all in all, mate, it was a weird game. If we're speaking about weird twos going backwards to the Lions, Amon-Ra St. Brown had 7 receiving yards.
Yeah. Oh well, I mean, some days you just have off. I scored my touchdown. We're winning. I'll sit this one out.
Yeah.
In fact, I haven't got. They haven't got his snap share up here quite yet. But yeah, I mean, look,
it wouldn't be huge.
It wouldn't be huge. He scored a touchdown. It didn't save his day, but it made it not a complete disaster. I guess
it sort of saved his day.
It sort of saved his day. I mean, like, for aesthetics, you'd like it to be double digits, but it's near enough, right? 8.7, like it'll do considering how little he played.
It could have been 1.
It could have been 1. It could have been 1. That's the point. I don't know if there's much more to comment on in that game, to be honest. Like,
welcome. Yeah, welcome back, Sam Laporta.
Yeah. Now the question is, has he returned, or did he just have a recurring role for tight ends day? Because every tight end went nuts today.
Look, I do believe he had some sort of a role. Now, obviously, Jamison Williams was out, so and he'll be out next week too. So Sam Laporta will be again more involved. His line coming into the game was like 32.5 or some shit like that. So that was a smash over for sure. That was way too low. In saying that, he only got 48 yards. So yeah. So look, it is what it is. But if he's scoring touchdowns, that's where he gets his value. So
Yeah. Now, we've got another question here, which we'll cover now. So, I'm trying to upgrade my wide receiver room. I have Devonta Smith, T. Higgins, Brian Thomas Jr., Hopkins, Deontay Johnson, Shaquille Tillman. Who do you think I should pair and offer a trade for?
oh god,
Why are you trying to upgrade that? That's probably the first question that comes to mind. I understand T. Higgins has been a bit hot and cold. Devonta Smith looks like he's got more of a share than he's had in previous years. Brian Thomas is now the unanimous wide receiver one and top, like just the focal point of this offense now. DeAndre Hopkins will be way better at the Chiefs. Deontay Johnson, if he stays at Carolina, like he'll have big games with Andy Dalton there. Otherwise, he'll go to a contender and he'll be okay. Khalil Shakir, solid game today, which we'll get to soon, and Cedric Tillman, who we've already covered. I don't think you need to do a trade there personally.
yeah, probably not. But then again, if you try to sort of package a couple of players up for a top player like Chase or yeah, anything like that, I don't think you'd get it done either. So yeah, it's a bit of a hard one.
Do you, let's talk here. Let's say you were trying to go for Jamar Chase. How useful is it having Cedric Tillman there? Because obviously you'd sell high on him, and you'd probably sell someone like Devonta Smith, or I don't think you're going to get T Higgins away. So let's say you sell Devonta Smith and Cedric Tillman. Is the Jamar Chase owner going to accept that?
No,
I can't. Oh, see, I kind of think yes.
I would be looking at Devonta Smith, Brian Thomas, and that's when I'd do that.
Oh, that's a lot though. That's a lot.
It is. It is.
And the gap's
But-
not enough between Brian Thomas and Chase nowadays.
I think that's the cost on a top receiver these days. Like you can't just get him and pluck him for Cedric Tillman off the waivers last week. You need more of a sample size than. I get he's probably going to have a nice role for the remainder of the year, but you just plucked him off the waivers last week. You sell high, sure, but I don't think that owner's going to be rushing and gushing for Cedric Tillman, if I'm being honest.
Interesting. Well, there you go. I still think you just hold firm, but if you were going to offer a trade, that's what I'd start at and see if you can work your way from there. But there you go. Now, next game, Colts Texans. How do we put this? So at the end of the first half, the man, the myth, the legend, number 5, had
It's getting
2
embarrassing.
completions on 15 attempts. But he did have a 60-yard touchdown pass to Josh Downs. So therefore he's fine. He keeps his starting job, whatever. In the second half, he had, I'm going to say 8 completions on 17 attempts. Still didn't even crack 50%. Oh, jeez. Okay.
He's getting embarrassing. He's getting
Rip in.
embarrassing. Now, I'm going to start with one play. End of the second half, end of the first half, should I say, second quarter. 30 seconds ago, he throws a pick on their own 10 or 20 or whatever it was that set up on the very next play a Tank Dell touchdown. Yeah, yuck. I understand the play call was probably a bit disgusting. You're on third down, probably run the ball and let the clock expire. But they get a bit too cute. Anthony Richards makes a horrible read and turns the ball over. Mate, all in all, it was honestly disgusting, and I'm surprised that he didn't get benched for Joe Flacco. He did come out momentarily out of the game because he was gassed, he reckons, and honestly, that's embarrassing too. But mate, all in all, I know it's growing pains, but there's a shitload of them.
Well, let's see. Yeah, he had the 60-yard touchdown pass. That's all that matters.
Mate, he shows flashes of absolute brilliance.
Oh, yeah. It's going to take a heck of a long time and a lot of learning for him to get consistent. Once he gets consistent, like, there's no problem with him, but he's so far off being consistent.
He can't pass.
Well, he can. He can't pass consistently, though.
He like the number one receiver, Michael Pittman Jr. Can't even
Well,
get a
is he the
look
number
in.
one? Is he
Well,
the number one?
probably.
Like, Josh Downs was the
Probably.
number one with Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
Like, I think
but-
I think Michael Pittman's well down on this year. I don't think
Sure,
he's the number
yeah.
one anymore.
And he's carrying an injury, fair enough. Maybe Josh Downs is the number one at the moment, but he's got zero connection with Michael Pittman Jr., who was a top 15 wide receiver last year. Like, genuinely just had zero connection. Well, he actually has zero connection with anyone.
Well, maybe not Alec Pierce and Josh Downs. Alec Pierce today, no, but in the past.
Consistently.
Yeah, well, that's my point. Consistency.
One
He's
pass,
got none of it.
one 60-yard pass doesn't mean they've got a connection.
No, but he's thrown 2 or 3 to Pierce, and Anyway, my point is he hasn't got consistency, and I would say it's the only thing that's missing. He's so freaking far from it, man. Anyway, different point. Josh Downs went nuts today. 109 receiving yards, a touchdown, and 13 random yards. I don't know how he got them, but you could probably tell me how. Probably an Anthony Richardson fumble, knowing my luck. But anyway,
Probably.
yep. We'll say for the argument that it is, but
No, it was a lateral.
oh, it's fine then. Okay, all good.
I remember that play. It was actually a really nice
Okay.
play.
All right, we're all good.
But it was good to see Jonathan Taylor come back and dominate too. It's a really solid offensive line, so he's coming back and seeing some bulk work, 105 yards and a score. So that's good for him. On the other side of things, mate, if we're talking about struggling, CJ Stroud showed flashes of struggle and then showed some flashes of brilliance. I didn't think he was great for the whole game, but I thought he was okay. 285, not too bad. 1 touchdown, yeah, it was okay. It was lucky probably that Anthony Richardson had his terrible play at the end of the first half. But all in all, mate, Stephon Diggs just went down with a non-contact knee injury too. So they're fearing the worst on Stephon Diggs. They're thinking maybe ACL. If he doesn't do his ACL, it's probably going to be a long-term injury anyway, you'd imagine. So he's probably going to be out, and it's going to be Tank Dell by himself with Joe Mixon and Allen Robinson. Probably is Allen Robinson still there? No, Robert Woods. Sorry,
Robert Woods and the Xavier Hutchinson.
Yeah, and John Mechie as well. So, yeah, he's going to struggle, I think, in the next couple of weeks until Nico Collins is back in, they reckon, week 10.
Yeah, so what's that? It's 1 more week after this, so that's pretty good. Yeah, Tank Dell might just have 200 receiving yards next week, though, just quietly.
Yeah. Every
Like,
chance.
I'm starting. I don't even care. I don't know who they're playing, and I don't care who they're playing. As long as they're playing New York. I don't care. I'd start Tank Dell everywhere.
I think I'm benching CJ Stroud though. But we mentioned that on Thursday. But yeah, it's interesting, mate. I'm probably a bit harsh on CJ Stroud because I had such a high expectation for him coming into the year. I thought he'd be pushing with MVP, and let's be honest, he's not really in that conversation. So they're doing okay as a whole. They're winning games of football, but on a personal level and a fantasy perspective as well, I've just expected a bit more out of CJ Stroud, and yeah, I don't think I've seen that yet.
Now, admittedly, in CJ's defense, it's been pretty much a one-horse race the last few weeks for MVP.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say Lamar certainly didn't throw it away today. I think he's still the MVP favorite by far. It's just
probably.
And that's mainly because he had a solid game and no one really had a great game. Now the next game, Packers Jags. Now the Packers won 30-27. Malik Willis had to step in because Jordan Love did his groin. Now that's not good for anyone on the Jaguars. Now Malik Willis, we saw earlier when he started in the season, he's a lot better than Tennessee Malik Willis. But it's still a downgrade because Jordan Love's had a heck of a year when he's not been injured.
Oh, yeah. What, he led the league in passing touchdowns or whatever it was, or the best per game ratio, whatever it was. But it's going to be, I don't know how long he's going to be out for. We'll probably know more over the coming days. But it looked like he was in a lot of pain too. So he could be out for a couple of weeks minimum. Josh Jacobs looked really, really good today, mate. 127 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. He came into the week with 2 touchdowns overall, one being a rushing, one being a receiving. So if he had 2 rushing touchdowns today, that's good for him because I think he's had a really good year, just hasn't had the scores just yet. So if, second half of the year he's going to be anything to go by, then he gets those scores and look out for him. Again, mate, it's all over the shop with the receiving core here, but you got Romeo Dobbs there for 3 for 72, Jayden Reed 2 for 55, Christian Watson 4 for 39. And then you got Tucker Kraft, a tight end, for 3 for 78 touchdowns. So the ball just keeps getting spread across the whole offense. If you're a Tucker Kraft owner, you obviously smash that him every week. But for the rest of them, mate, it's just really a toss-up, isn't it?
Somehow Romeo Dobbs is the most consistent receiver here. Somehow.
I'd probably agree.
He's had 3 straight weeks of pretty consistent volume ever since he threw his little tantrum. He's had consistent volume. Now, the good thing for the Packers is they've got the Week 10 bye, so you probably sit Jordan Love as a precaution next week. If it's a minor injury, you sit him next week. Give him the bye. He'll be 100% when he comes back Week 11. That'll benefit the receivers a fair bit. You're better off not risking a serious injury to Jordan Love. Now, speaking of serious injuries, we talked about it earlier. Christian Kirk done for the year with a collarbone or shoulder. I think it's a collarbone injury. Broken collarbone, out for the year. What does this mean? It means not very much because Christian Kirk was already slowly being phased out of this offense. It does absolutely reaffirm, however, that Brian Thomas is the wide receiver 1 on this team. It also reaffirms that Evan Engram is now the number 2 pass catcher on this team. If you have those 2 guys, and Trevor Lawrence is having an underrated season, he's doing pretty well after the slow start.
It's been good last 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, I think you'd be jumping for joy if you had Brian Thomas or Evan Engram.
Brian Thomas actually left the game and did not return with that chest injury, so that's one to monitor throughout the week. Now, I've got one for you. If you said, what does it mean for Christian Kirk? I've got something for you that I'm going to bounce off you and see what you reckon about this. Now, Travis Etienne is obviously out of the lineup at the moment. Missed, obviously, today with that hammy. It was a game time decision. They just went with caution and sat him. I'm happy with that. I rate that. I think that's the right choice. Do you think that Etienne is a chance to maybe be a slot receiver or play more as a wide receiver now that Bigsby's come up?
I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because we've seen that Christian Kirk went down. We saw that Brian Thomas went down. And and Gabe Davis himself went down with an injury.
Sorry, he did too. Did not return.
Yeah. So they've lost all 3 of their starting receivers. So it was Parker Washington, Tim Jones, and I don't know who the 3rd receiver was. I'm going to say Brenton Strange, and they might have lined Evan Engram.
Yeah.
Yes, but I think they might have lined up Evan Engram in the slot. I think that's really the answer. Brenton Strange is going to benefit, and Evan Engram plays in the slot. They did invest a bit of draft capital in Strange. I believe he was a 2nd rounder last year, late 2nd round pick last year. So they obviously hold him in some regard. But he did a solid job for them. 5 catches, 59 yards receiving, and he's filled in well for Evan Engram earlier in the season. So I think the big beneficiary will be Brenton Strange, but even bigger, Evan Engram, because he's playing slot receiver.
Yeah, as I said before, man, I'm interested to see how they use Etienne moving forward. I think he's too good just to sit behind Bigsby and let him sort of fade out. But in saying that, you can't really just take work off Bigsby, mate. He's been too good this year. 18 carries for 78 yards today against a half decent run defense as well. Not great, but not awful. Probably middle of the pack. And I thought he did really well too. So yeah, it'd be rough to take, majority of the work off Bigsby and say, hey mate, Etienne's back, you're off. I think they'll try and utilize both players in somewhat of a format where they can both be on the field at the same time.
I mean, Etienne will have pass catching duties out of the backfield. So because Bigsby and Dearness Johnson aren't going to do that. So it's
No.
going to be Etienne there, and he'll have carries because he's been good barring this year. He's had a
Sure.
good career barring this year. So I'm not really concerned. I mean, I'm not concerned if I'm a Bigsby owner. And Etienne will still have some value for those owners out there. There is a chance he gets traded, though. Like, I know there's certainly a team that one of us is a fan of that could do with a running back or two right around now.
Yeah.
And I'm not the one.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not wrong there, mate. I agree.
Yeah, and what's his capital going to be? Third rounder?
Yeah.
Maybe at best a third rounder. So I think you could get him for that. Cardinals Dolphins. Bit of an upset here, despite the Dolphins having the inferior record. Tua's back. Everyone was like, okay, Tua's back, Dolphins are back. Different story. But no, not really. The defense didn't do the greatest of jobs. Tua was pretty solid. A-Chain went massive again. So I can't really blame the offense. 27 points should be enough to win your games, but the Cardinals got it done on offense. I mean, Kyler Murray, I thought that Call of Duty would stuff him over, but 26 of 36, 307, 2 touchdowns in the air, and then a few rushes. Nothing significant there, but he fed Marvin Harrison today. 6 catches, 111 yards, and a touchdown. And he also fed Trey McBride. Let's not forget Trey McBride. 9 catches, 124 receiving yards. So it's safe to say that Kyler Murray is using his weapons and using them well because they outscored the offensive juggernaut that is the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, that's right, mate. Even Michael Wilson's getting more involved. Second year wide receiver now as well. He's looking quite good. I think he's pretty much firmed up the role as a number 2 now, which is good to see for him. But yeah, all in all, mate, Marvin Harrison had some freakish plays. I don't know if you saw that touchdown catch that he had. That was really, really nice. Made that look really easy when it was actually very, very difficult, especially when you're trying to slide too. So, well done to him. He's back in. He's going to be a little bit inconsistent, but for the most part, he'll have some big games. On the Dolphins side of things, mate, as you said, A-Chain, massive game. Tyreek Hill, a little bit lackluster, if I'm being honest. 6 for 72, no touchdowns. But hey, it's better than his previous scores he's had for the last 4 weeks. So good for him. Same with Jalen Waddle, to be fair, too. 4 for 45 and did drop it at sitter as well, might I add. Did you see that play where Tua slid for I think it was a 15-yard rush or whatever it was, or 13-yard rush, whatever it was, and the crowd starts chanting, clapping up, setting ovation. He's learned to slide. Unbelievable.
I mean, he had to learn to slide because I don't know if I'm being over dramatic here when I say he's basically one heavy concussion away from retirement.
Oh yeah,
It was pretty close this time.
The
Yet
problem
alone
is he was
what'll
sliding
happen
with his
next
head.
time. Yeah, There's a few. Sliding the dangerous gap, like it's not foolproof sliding, is what I'm trying to say. Like,
but it's
you
better than
can
what he was
slide.
doing.
It's better than what he was doing, which was charging head on and not diving. Not even diving. He was just staying upright and leading with the head.
Yeah. He was actually actually the guy that was doing it.
Yeah. So
Anyway,
the Devon A-Chain train, I suppose, is back. Like, he had with Tua, he's had 3 games where he's finished in the top 3 running backs for the week.
Yeah.
So the hype we put on him in the preseason is real. If I go by points per game in the running back, okay, actually, can you fill in some time whilst I figure out this stat here? What else did you like in this game?
Well, what I didn't like was Raheem Mostert's 2 rushing touchdowns if we're talking about A-Chain, and talking about how good he's been in the year, and you got this little mosquito, should I say, stealing some rushing touchdowns. But hey, I guess he's goal line back, and that's his job. So 9 carries for 19 yards, like a genuine goal line back here. And yeah, stealing touchdowns from A-Chain, who could have had even a bigger day.
Yeah. Now, I'm here with the start. So if we go by points per game this year, Devon A-Chain with Tua Tagovailoa, he's averaging 26.4 points a game. All right.
Yeah, huge.
Unsurprisingly, that puts him as the RB1.
Yeah.
RB2 would be Joe Mixon, and that's including an injury game. And then Derrick Henry at 3, which I also agree unsurprising. So
You know
if
what's
you're Devon
unsurprising?
A-Chain, yeah, so go.
Is the 2 that you named 1 and 2 are very injury prone.
Yeah. Yep.
Albeit A-Chain actually hasn't had an injury this year yet, but he's due. Yeah.
He's due. Yeah. And it would make sense that just as all the game gets back together, he goes.
Yeah.
You know. Now, let's go to the next game. Patriots Jets. Drake May had a heck of a first quarter, and then he got knocked out.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, the Jets have won.
Yeah.
Then Jacoby Brissett game managed the Patriots all the way to a victory. And I'm like, it's harsh to say this, but Aaron Jones isn't the same player. Like,
Oh, God, no.
He's what I'm not going to say he's washed, but he's as close to washed as you can be without officially being washed.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with that, mate. I would agree with that, and especially now that he's demanded Devontae Adams come in, and 4 for 54 isn't too inspiring, if I'm being honest with you, especially in a loss. It's not like they haven't had the history together as well. You can say, it's just growing pains. No, it's not growing pains. They've played together before. They know how they work. And yeah, Aaron Rodgers just isn't the same player anymore as what he used to be. I will say, Ramondre Stevenson looked really good today.
Well, look, did he look really good?
Well, scoring wise,
his score was good, but 20 carries for 48 yards is a bit grim.
Probably.
I mean, it's against the Jets' defense, so just to get 2 touchdowns is pretty good against that defense. Particularly when you lose. I get that losing Drake May, it's not a massive burden to them because they've played a fair bit with both quarterbacks, and they're probably at similar levels right now.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's a massive burden, but the offense definitely looks better with Drake May, but it can function slightly with Brissett there under center.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you saw during the week. We probably didn't mention this in our podcast. I only found out on the weekend, but Kayshon Boutte was kicking up a bit of a stink over the week, wanting more targets, wanting to be more involved in the offense. And look, suddenly he was. He had 3 catches for 46 yards. Probably should have had the game-winning touchdown. Fell short by half a yard. Look, he set him up for a touchdown with that Ramondre touchdown at the end to win the game. So well done to Boutte. Let's see if he can just sort of work on that now and become maybe fantasy relevant, because they are crying out for a receiver to really take the reins of the number 1, because Pop Douglas hasn't done that. Tyquan Thornton hasn't done that. Polk hasn't done that. Kendrick Bourne hasn't done that. KJ Osborne hasn't done that. So they're just crying out for a real weapon before they have a top draft pick when they'll draft one next year. Well, you'd think anyway.
I'm looking forward to seeing Tetairoa McMillan go to the Patriots next year. He's already looking like a star.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, that's a solid 8 months down the track. That's probably it for that game. Now the Falcons Bucks. Again, a pretty good game. 31-26 to the Falcons. Not quite the points and yards fest that it was in prime time a few weeks back, but Kirk Cousins, 23 of 29, 276, 4 passing touchdowns, 2 of which went to the ghost of Kyle Pitts. All of a sudden, he is back, and he has been back for a little while, but now he's really really back with a big score.
Yeah, he is, mate, and he's lucky. He's very lucky that one didn't get taken away from him with the celebration going into the end zone, and I think it was Antoine Winfield that hit it loose. And honestly, mate, I thought it was out, but there wasn't enough conclusive evidence to overturn it. So that's great for Pitt's owners, but tell you what, it was damn close. But yeah, mate, he's really starting to get comfortable with Kirk Cousins now, and it's good to see. Kirk Cousins has had 9 passing touchdowns against the Bucks this year, so he just hopes he plays them every week at this point. Same with Darnell Mooney. He goes off against the Bucks as well. So yeah, all in all, mate, pretty good game to watch. In saying that, Cade Otton, the big tight end, he went berserk on National Tight End Day. I think he had just under maybe 30 points, I think it was, depending if you play in tight end premium leagues or not. I can't remember because I play in tight end premium leagues for the majority.
I
I'm
do
pretty
have
sure
it here. 29.1 based off in a full PPR.
all rounded up.
Yeah, 30 odd.
Yeah, 30 odd. So yeah, he went berserk, mate, and it's good to see because we did expect him to be the number one receiving option on the Bucks. And he was. Absolutely, he was. I think he came to the game as 38 to 40 yards was his over-unders, and he smashed that, obviously. But outside of that, mate, it was hard to really work out who was number one. Sterling Shepard did leave the game, and I don't think he returned with an injury.
I think he returned pretty late.
Okay.
He was out for a little while.
Yeah, right. We don't know what. Jalen McMillan was okay, 4 for 35, but it was really more the receivers, the running backs that got more involved in the passing work, which I thought would happen as well. Bucky Irving, Rashad White combined for 12 catches. And if you include Sean Tucker, it's actually 13. So I did expect that, but not to probably that number. Probably more than what I would have guessed.
Well, I mean, they also went very pass heavy. So Baker had 50 passing attempts. So
yeah.
I don't know.
They were catching up for majority of the game.
Yeah, but I don't know. That can't be their script going forward. Is more my point. So, particularly with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin out, you've got the three stud's a strong word. You've got 3 NFL starting caliber running backs there. I think you just give them each 7, 8, 9 carries, and that's how you revolve your offense around, because they're all good enough. Well, yeah, they did, but when you in principle, but Bucky Irving had 9, Rashad White had 6, Sean Tucker had 2. They shouldn't have been passing 50 times though.
I think they were their defense is really mid. So they give up a lot of scores. So unfortunately, Baker Mayfield, if you've got him in fantasy, he's just going to have these games all the time because they're just going to have to either catch up or keep up. So all in all, mate, I think it was a pretty fun game to watch. And Drake London, I thought would go bigger than what he did, and he didn't. So that was probably the biggest loser out of all that. But I'm not too worried about that moving forward anyway. It's just an off game.
You'll like this. Baker Mayfield is QB2 on the year.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that. Yeah. And look, he's got a lot to show me in the next couple of weeks without Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, because I think he's on the border of really exploding to be that next tier up. He's sort of hovering around that tier of, is he top 10? Is he not? If he starts popping off over the next few weeks without the Chris Godwins and Mike Evans of the world, then I would put him in there. Because he's been very, very good for the last 18 months.
Yeah, he's had a heck of a stint in Tampa, probably just his whole career. Saints Chargers, probably the least exciting game on Red Zone this morning,
doesn't it?
26-8. Now there was one person, actually probably 2 people. There's 2 people that did well in this game. Excluding, I'm going to do it. Lad McConkey, the preseason hero, has finally arrived. 6 catches, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's his breakout game. I think you and I can both agree. Now, the question is he here to stay or was that a one-off? I hope he's here to stay because he's a heck of a wide receiver.
I would agree. Now, rookie receivers do get better as the season goes along. So, there's in a few leagues he did hit the waiver wire, which maybe that's premature. I'm not too sure. But if he's there, mate, grab him, stash him. Look, you probably can't start him, but stash him because he's probably going to get better as the season goes along. Justin Herbert should get a bit more healthier too. He started the year off really poorly with that ankle injury that he had too, and what did he have? Plantar fasciitis as well in the preseason. So as the season goes along, he will get healthier. I do think they'll start moving away from the run a little bit more, and leaning on Justin Herbert to because he's an exceptionally good Justin Herbert. So I don't think giving J.K. Dobbins 20 plus carries a game is the way to do it, even though he's had a fantastic season. But that's just going to break him down eventually and kill him. So, 4-3 Chargers, that's not a bad start for their season. Let's see if they can finish it off.
Yeah. And, you go to the other side of the game. Alvin Kamara, 10 carries, 67 yards, 6 catches on 11 targets for 55 yards. This is why Alvin Kamara was like my favorite guy to draft. It just doesn't matter. Like if the quarterback play sucks, he gets more catches. If the quarterback plays good, he'll get more touchdowns. He was undervalued, but he's not
Sure.
washed. He's not washed.
Sure.
He's got a new contract extension. He's RB2 on the year.
With a broken
And he
hand.
did it again. Yeah, he did it again. 18.2 fantasy points. Broken hand, as you say, had broken ribs earlier in the season as well. So he is just a unit. Who I'll tell you who isn't a unit though. Spencer Rattler, 12 of 24 for 156 yards. I mean, at least he can complete at 50%.
Yeah.
But he managed to find Chris Olave a fair bit. 8 catches on 14 targets for 107 yards. That's what they need to do. They need to get the ball to Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave. The only way they'll be able to function as an offense.
Yeah, and I do think Derek Carr might be back next week, so this offense should get a bit better. But they started the year 2-0, and people were thinking these guys could be a Super Bowl contender, and they've lost the next 6. That's interesting. But I agree, mate. All in all, it was a pretty pox game to watch. Just really bad. But hey, good to see Olave score a good score because he's a damn good receiver.
Now, I think those $88 of fab that I put on Chris Olave last week were well spent. I did get him.
Yeah.
I did get him. But yeah, I'm fairly happy with my purchase. Safe to say,
As it should be.
Yeah. Now, what I'm not happy about is the Bills Seahawks game, 31-10. Oh man, I didn't realize that DK being out cost us a competent quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the numbers, you're saying, okay, Gino was okay. 21 of 29, 212. Yeah, there was a pick. There wasn't a passing touchdown, but he was okay. But you watch the game, like he fumbled, and he tripped over the center.
Yeah.
The snap from the other center on the goal line was trash. In fact, it cost Kenneth Walker 19 yards of rushing, that fumbled snap. So that's 2 points gone from something that he saved. He got them 15 yards back off the 19 yards lost. It was a disaster. It was a disaster on offense. Zach Charbonnet stole a touchdown as well. Like Tyler Lockett was a non-feature, and JSN was basically the sole receiver. And it looks as though AJ Barner is starting to take Noah Fant's job. So it's just an absolute disaster.
Yeah, it really was from start to finish, wasn't it? I thought with DK missing, and look, they were saying pre-game that he's going to go through a walkthrough pre-game, and it was never going to happen. But I did think Tyler Lockett would be a sneaky good play if that didn't happen. Mate, one catch for 9 yards ain't gonna get it done. He's showing his age a little bit, old Tyler Lockett. He won't be with the Seahawks next year, let's be honest.
No.
And Smith and Jigba probably just needed a bit more targets as such. I think he just needs to be more involved. He is the future of this offense. DK Metcalf, we know what you're going to get from him, but we want to see Jackson Smith and Jigba go to that next level, and be more consistent as the season goes along too. So if you're in dynasty leagues, stay patient. If you're in redraft leagues,
I think he'll have his weeks. He'll have his weeks.
Sure. But you
I
also see
don't think
more
he's an every week,
consistency.
and he's not an every week starter.
No. On the other side of the pill, mate, James Cook is really showing why he's a top 10 running back in the league. He looks exceptional today. Tore through a defense who's been okay for the majority, if I'm being honest. Okay.
The run's been the weakest part.
Sure.
But James Cook's becoming Dalvin again. Like, he's
Yes.
become Dalvin Cook.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, mate, absolutely. And especially when you thought that, Ray Davis had his day when James Cook was out, we were thinking, oh, shit, could Ray Davis take 25% of his snaps away? No, he's not. James Cook is really him at the moment, going berserk. Probably a top 7, maybe 6 running back when he's healthy.
Absolutely. You could argue that, and he's absolutely in the top 10. Like, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. No question.
Someone, and look, underrated for the majority of the fantasy community, but not by me. Khalil Shakir has put together a very consistent season where he's been, in my opinion, and maybe your opinion, the most consistent receiver on this team for the Bills. He had 10 targets, 9 catches, 107 receiving yards. I didn't realize that when they traded for Amari Cooper, it would be in a coaching role, because he did nothing today. 1 catch, 3 yards. Keon Coleman goes as 5 catches, 70 yards, and has a one-handed touchdown grab. And then Khalil Shakir has 100 receiving yards himself. So, and Dalton Kincaid goes and scores 1. So it's like Amari Cooper makes them better, but he's not doing anything himself.
I think he's still learning the playbook. So I think you just got to be a little bit patient with him. Mate, he could be a league winner still. He still could be a league winner. But at this point, we'll see how he goes next week. But I will say, though, he's taking away the number 1 corner away from Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir. So it's just opening up for these boys to be a bit better in their seasons as well, because Keon Coleman was struggling. He was on waivers in probably, I don't know, half the leagues, I'd say.
Yeah.
But now he's starting to build. So that's good to see. But let's see how Cooper goes next week before we make a real ill-advised decision of where he's at in his career.
Coach Cooper. Now, the Panthers and the Broncos, I looked at the score at halftime in this game. I saw Bryce Young was doing okay. I think he had 10 completions for 100 yards. He might have had a touchdown pass. I think he did have a touchdown pass at that point. And I was like, okay, it is Denver's defense. It's a very good defense. And I sort of had that opinion still at the very end of the game. Like, sure, there was moments where he wasn't great, and he wasn't great for the majority of the second half. But for someone in his position, it's going to be hard to be great immediately against this defense, where you don't have Deontay Johnson, you don't have Adam Thielen, and Xavier Legette. I don't know how he scored a touchdown, because he would have been locked up by Patrick Surtain the whole game.
Yeah, it's look what he finished the game with 224 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. I don't hate that.
Neither do I. Yeah,
I don't hate that. I don't love it, might I add, but I don't hate it. It's a good return. If he came out and had like 90 passing yards, no touchdown passes, and 2 picks, I would have been heavily concerned. But against a good defense, mate, you probably take that. And you know what? Outside of that, not much else happened on this team, to be honest.
I'll tell you what's disgusting. Miles Sanders having 7 catches.
Yeah.
7 catches for 38 yards. Why isn't Chuba Hubbard getting those catches? What does Miles Sanders bring in the passing game that Chuba Hubbard doesn't? That's
Yeah.
what I don't
Yeah.
get it. I think they're trying to bolster his trade value a little bit.
Mm.
That's the only thing I
Yeah.
could think of.
That was weird, wasn't it?
Now on the flip side, Bo Nix, who I've been critical of, had
Mm.
a day. He had a day. I get it. I get it's Carolina he played.
Yeah.
You can only play what's in front of you, and he did it really
Yep.
well. Like he had 4 touchdowns, rushing touchdown, 3 passing. He had 1 passing touchdown to Jaleel McLaughlin. He also had another one to where are the other 2?
Chapman.
Oh, Troutman and 2 tight ends. So Troutman and Adkins. Now Adam Troutman, I won't be rostering him. I won't even put a single dollar on him for waivers. But that one-handed catch he had for 15 yards was the 15-yard touchdown
Yeah.
was something. It was something.
Yeah, it was, mate. And look, I made a bold call, mate. In one of my Gillo leagues, I actually benched Jayden Daniels for Bo Nix. I liked the matchup better. And it turned out in my favor. Worked out
Just
really well. No, comfortably in the end.
comfortably.
Yeah. Bo Nix had like 29 points in the game, man. He balled out. He did have a rushing touchdown to go with it too.
Mm.
So 4 touchdowns on the day for Bo Nix, pretty damn good. Again, albeit against a really bad defense, but no, I've liked his game this year, to be honest, man. Again, in the preseason, I wasn't too sure what would get out of Bo Nix. I thought the offense would be pretty pox, but he's been really good. He's been really good, so I think that's a positive out of there. Denver had a lot of criticism last year with that Russell Wilson trade, with the decision of just getting rid of him for all that dead cap, but they sit at 5-3, so. They might be having the last laugh here. I don't know, but they're doing quite well in the year. And I did not expect that. So, all in all, mate, I think it's been a pretty positive year for Denver so far. And it's probably time to get Bo Nix another weapon.
Yes. Do you trade for one this year, or do you just
No,
stockpile for the draft?
I think you just let it go. Unless you can get one cheap.
Yeah. I'm not sure who you could get. You're more likely to trade Cortland Sutton than you are to trade for a receiver. That's the thing.
Yeah, probably.
There's
But
more-
I don't think they'd do that anyway.
Not anymore. Now, next game, the undefeated Kansas City Chiefs. They're 7-0. They're going to do it again, aren't they? Without quality quarterback play. Well, not quality. Without Patrick Mahomes being at his best, they're still
Yeah.
going to go to a Super Bowl, and they're still going to win the damn Super Bowl.
Mm.
I'm not even going to delay the inevitable here. They'll beat Lamar Jackson in the AFC. I don't know who the heck they'll play in the NFC. Won't matter. Won't matter.
I'm starting to really dislike the Chiefs.
Only now.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed them last year, even going back, mate. I actually really like Patrick Mahomes, but he gets the best whistle in the game, I reckon. He had a roughing the passer call today, which is really, really, really soft. And look, to be honest with you, he's been getting it for the majority of his career. They want him to be the next Brady. I guess he sort of is to a degree, but without Brady's whistle, Brady never got a whistle, and Mahomes is getting gifted it left, right, and center. So, well, look, we'll see how he goes. You're probably right, mate. With the Super Bowl call, they're probably going to be there. But will they be there with Pacheco, or will they be there with Kareem Hunt? Because he had 21 carries today for 59 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, inefficient, but the Raiders' run defense is pretty damn good.
Like Kareem Hunt, he's returned back to the old Kareem. Chiefs Kareem is back.
Yeah.
I think they'll keep him on the roster, but there's no reason not to give Pacheco the young buck with give him the workload back.
I was more thinking sort of injury if he'd come back in time and be healthy, ready to go. He probably will. But we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I sort of lean towards him being fine for the latter parts of the season, but they won't rush him back with the way that Kareem Hunt's playing. You've also got, the debut of DeAndre Hopkins. Like, obviously, we expected it to be slow to start out with. But who did step up today? I think, first game on a new team.
It was weird, though. They said at the start of the game they're going to pepper DeAndre Hopkins, and he has 2 catches for 29 yards.
Yeah, you don't believe anything they say in that regard.
It's weird.
Yeah. Travis Kelsey, he got peppered.
Yeah.
10 catches, 90 yards, touchdown on 12 targets. He had himself a day. I didn't think he'd outplay Brock Bowers, but he definitely did.
Yeah, for sure.
Bowers was sorry, you go.
I was gonna say this game was a lot closer than what I actually expected, man. I didn't think that this offense would be able to keep up, as in the Raiders' offense would be able to keep up with the Chiefs. It's been pretty pox, let's be honest, and they've got no receiving weapons there at all, right? And they kept up with them, and against a good Chiefs defense, might I add, and nearly took it to them, and didn't nearly beat them. They were sort of playing from behind for the majority of the game, but they stay within arm's length at least.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the Raiders played well above. They overcame the lack of a ground game, lack of wide receivers. It was basically, and they didn't really pepper Brock Bowers. So I just good team performance.
How's that, huh?
Yeah.
14 carries for Madison for 15 yards. Zamir White, 2 carries for -1 yards. Yeah, just grim, huh?
I think it's time to give Amir Abdullah 20 carries a game.
Maybe.
Why not? Give him a go. Now, Jayden Daniels. I think it's safe to say
He's a bad man. He's a bad.
absolute stud. 21 of 38, 326 passing yards, and a passing touchdown on the final play of the game, and a Hail Mary to Noah Brown off a deflection from the cornerback / idiot Tyreek Stevenson. It was. I mean, look, Jayden Daniels is Rookie of the Year.
Yep.
He's possibly in the as I say, Lamar is the MVP, and it's a one-man race right now. But if you're trying to come up with best of the rest, Jayden Daniels' name is being thrown around.
I'm going to check those odds now that you said that.
I mean, I think Mahomes' odds are actually the best, but that's just because it's Mahomes. That's not because it's reality.
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen? Oh,
Yeah.
come on now. It should be Lamar. Anyway.
Josh Allen, Lamar, very close money. I had Patrick Mahomes all within $1. Jared Goff not far behind, and Jayden Daniels.
Yeah, so he's there or thereabouts, and rightfully so. He's just been immense. He was trying to do Robert Griffin's thing, but he's done it better than Robert Griffin. Like he's a gun. Yeah. Brian Robinson, I mean, he's also a gun. And 16 carries, 65 yards. I get it only went to 8.6 fantasy points, but it's just like he's a good runner. He's a good running back. It's a shame he didn't have a touchdown today. But that was just the nature of the game. It was a really close game. Really close.
Yeah, it was, mate. And again, against a very good defense, and Jayden Daniels comes out and with a rib injury too. 326 passing yards and 1 touchdown. And we know how that touchdown ended. But what a play that was, really. Terry McLaurin is a low-end, high wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. He'd be on the between 12 and 15 is probably where he's at for the remainder of the season, which is quite good. With only realistically being the only solid offensive option on the team. I know Jayden Daniels will have to share it around, but let's be honest, in terms of receivers and tight ends, might I add, Terry McLaurin is the guy. But yeah, on the Bears side of things, man, I was a little bit disappointed. I was actually really disappointed with the play all around from the Bears. I thought the play calling was odd. I thought the execution was terrible. On a plus matchup, and DJ Moore has 2 catches for 27 yards, and Keenan Allen has 2 catches for 39 yards. Like, the Commanders been spitting points all year, and you guys can't really make these guys hurt at all. Or make it some sort of a shootout was very disappointing for mine. It's a battle of the 1v2 draft picks, and Jayden Daniels looked like the better player.
Well, he was. I mean, Caleb Williams had 10 of 24 for 131 passing yards. He did have a 2-point conversion in there. And then he also had to run 10 times for 41 yards. I think it says a lot about I think a lot of this is to do with the O-lines
Sure.
as well. Like, Jayden Daniels' O-line, I talked about at the top of the show, they blocked for him for 12 seconds on that Hail Mary, longest of all time in the NFL era. So there's that. And meanwhile, like, Caleb Williams is not a 10 rushes a game kind of player. That's not his prototype, or archetype. So it's really the word. But they had to. They had to. They had no choice because the blocking was not very good. Now that's definitely going to play into some of the incompletions, but he still had an off day regardless, Caleb Williams. And
Yeah.
I mean, the only person who didn't on that Chicago Bears offense was DeAndre Swift, who ever since averaging 1.6 yards a carry, just quietly, he hasn't ran for less than what is it, less than 70 yards since nearly losing his job.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And look, Roshan Johnson's getting the goal line carries. He had the 1 yard touchdown today, I think it was. Or if it wasn't a 1 yard, it was a goal line carry, whatever it was. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, all in all, mate, Swift has been really, really good. You know, he did start off really grim, but has brought it together, and he's making a name for himself for a high end RB2 for the remainder of the year, which we thought might have been the go for him at the start of the year, but as I said, could have been droppable in some leagues, and now he's really turned it up, and he could be there for the shining light for this team for the remainder of the year.
Yeah. Now let's move to the final game today. The final game we'll cover tonight: the Niners and the Cowboys. And as a proud Jordan Mason owner, it hurts me to do this, but
This man was a bona fide scrub. He can't play. No disrespect whatsoever, but I'm sorry to tell everybody the truth.
He sucks. He sucked today. He got injured. Obviously, that didn't help, but he shouldn't have played. That's the harsh reality. He shouldn't have played. His redrafts, his fantasy stock as a whole, probably down the gutter because he's injured again. He's gonna miss. He's got the bye next week. It's more than 1 week injury, I reckon, now because he's re-injured it. McCaffrey's back week 10 anyway. Durendo filled in really well with 14 carries for 85 yards. So Jordan Mason's value is the lowest it's been since preseason now, I think.
It's do you reckon you could get a role as a running back at the Niners? Because it seems like you can plug anyone in and they can play.
Yeah. Yeah, like Durendo comes in and he just does his thing, doesn't he?
Yeah. I mean, I reckon I can just try out for him and they'd make me a 50-yarder at least. But yeah, all in all, mate, I thought they played pretty well. I thought Petey was actually quite good. He did enough and was good enough when it mattered most. Well, actually, sort of to a degree, did enough during the game, should I say. The last quarter was a little bit skeptical, but did enough. The Kittle Cat came in questionable, dominated 6 of 128 and a touchdown. He's having a really good year. And Debo left the game undisclosed injury, I believe. We're not sure what the issue is, and did not return. It was late in the last quarter.
Yeah, it got updated to ribs.
Right.
Okay. Not good news. Not good news.
Especially when he just had pneumonia. I don't know what the correlation is there at all, but maybe he just had a big hit and came out. But anyway, watch that space with Debo Samuel. He should be right for when they play next, you'd imagine. But Ricky Pearson was quite good, mate. He's building a little bit.
Yeah, I think he'll have another practice over the bye period. Comes back, he'll have Debo there. He'll have probably Christian McCaffrey there. I think we'll start to see the best the 49ers will be for the rest of the season without Ayuk there. So I tell you who was, I probably should have been the player of the week, but Jayden Daniels' highlights too good. But CD Lamb went massive.
Yeah, didn't
13 catches, on 17 targets for 146 yards and 2 touchdowns. I get you lost, but how do you mow it?
Look, mate. To be honest with you, it was Dak to a T, wasn't it? I mean, they get down by a couple of scores. Junk time comes around in the last quarter. Dak makes the score look a little bit respectable. He gets the ball back to tie the game, and he comes up short. That's sort of that's sort of his career to a nutshell, really, isn't it? A good fantasy option, but not a terrible, but just an average QB in the league. 60 million for an average QB is pretty embarrassing. What I was surprised about was CD Lamb wasn't double teamed at all. They just played him as a single coverage, and I don't know why, because the Cowboys don't have a number 2 receiver. So when you're playing Jalen Tolbert, Kevontae Turpin, why wouldn't you just double team CD Lamb and let these guys beat you? Because they wouldn't have done that. But anyway, Jake Ferguson's been a little bit disappointing as the year's gone on. He's been involved, but hasn't been involved. It's hard to say what's going on there. And the run game at the Cowboys is just disgusting. They had Zeke and Dalvin Cook playing today with obviously Rico Dowdle missing with illness. And, mate, that would have been a really good backfield in 2018. But in 2024, it's a grandpa department.
Yep. Retirement home took the words right out of my mouth. 6 carries, 12 yards, and a catch for 10 yards for Dalvin Cook, and then 10 carries for 34 yards and a touchdown for Zeke. Are they better off just running the fullback there 15 times a game without Dowdle?
Yeah.
Probably. He's still at 0 yards, but,
But it doesn't make Dak better, though, as a player when you've got no run game at all.
Yeah.
Like, you're just landing on Dak for pretty much the whole game. And let's be honest, Dak's not good enough to be able to do that. He's pretty careless at times. He did throw for 2 picks as well. And they were pretty bad, throwing double coverage and everything like that, just bad reads. But if the Cowboys are serious, mate, they've got to get a proper running back that can actually help Dak and give him some shorter fields to work with, or even some shorter, shorter body first downs, second downs, third downs, all that stuff. So just get him some help there, because he can't do it by himself.
Well, I hope the Cowboys have one eye on Ashton Genty.
Yeah.
Because you'll have a solid enough pick at this rate to be able to get him. And you just got to draft him when he's dude's a generational talent. Anyway, that is it for tonight's show. I think we've covered all the bases. Jayden Daniels, what a player. Anthony Richardson might be a running back. Bryce Young showed some glimpses. He might not be completely dead in the water after all, but we'll see. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on Thursday with a preview of week 9. Cheers.
They think it amazing.